Hello everyone, Carlos here for keyboard shortcut number 16, which is gonna be about Control 0 and Control 9. In essence, Control 0 and for example, Control 0 is about hiding columns. Control space bar to select the whole column, then Control 0 to hide column C. Okay, you can see that it's hidden. Now, if we wanted to do with row, Control Z, for example, we wanted to hide all this section, we can expand shift arrow this section, for example, and we're about to hide 4 rows. For example, we now do Control 9, and we actually hit, or rows from 6 to 9 are hidden. Okay, now that's is essentially the keyboard shortcut in essence. Okay, but let's go to real quick here the agenda. Okay, we have seen what is it for. I mean, what is it? But why could this keyboard shortcut be useful for your workbooks, for your work? Okay, so let me just tell you this. In every worksheet of Excel, you have about, I think, about 10,000 columns and more than 1 million of rows. Okay, but we are never gonna use a lot of cells, a lot of them. We are never gonna use them. Okay, and for example, what we can do, for example, let me just close this and say, maybe with your keyboard shortcut, I explained the keyboard shortcut for zooming in or zooming out. We just zoom out, Control Alt, and then minus signs to really zoom out. So you can see, for example, that table, the blue table below, it is actually reaching up to column Z, okay? And you can see all this space, white space that I'm actually gonna, sort of point out here. You can see that that's never gonna be utilized, okay? And then escape, and then we can actually go right here to the bottom of it and go really fast, and then you can now see all this section below the table also is not gonna be used. Okay, so if this is not gonna be used at all, why not hide it? Okay, so that's when actually the keyboard shortcut really takes actually some sort of use, in my opinion. Okay, and another one that I will tell you in a bit. For example, so you go right here, and I'm actually just gonna snap this. So we go right here, and then my recommended practice is to leave 3 columns for margin. So you go 1, 2, 3, and then on AD you do Control Spacebar, and then Control Shift arrow right, and then Control 0. And now, see, you can tell the difference now that you have these columns right here on the left side, but now you can go, to more to the right, because now all those columns are hidden. Since they're not gonna be used, might as well hide them. I think so. And for example, when it's rows, you actually want to leave a margin of 10 rows, for example. It could be 10, it could be 15, depending on, what's your need. I'm just gonna leave it here when it says 1970. I'm just gonna do Shift spacebar, Shift, and then Control. You hold it down, arrow down, and then Control 9. So I have hidden all these rows that potentially and very probably I'm not gonna use. Okay, I always do this on my work because it actually kind of gives us it kind of gives you a sense that you have a dedicated area on the worksheet. For example, if now we zoom out, you can now see that, for example, let me just, for example, here. So you can now, and just here. Now you can see that the worksheet, for example, has some sort of dedicated area. Okay, the worksheet, all the data of this worksheet is actually on that blue table with some cells, blank cells around it. But then again, the other stuff that is on gray is all hidden because it's not gonna be used. So I think it's a good practice to actually hide that stuff and really keep it there. And also the other use that I found, or the other utility, and let me just escape here and then zoom out again, zoom in actually, Control Alt plus sign, is, for example, that if you send a work to somebody else, sometimes when they're actually analyzing or scanning it, they actually do Control arrow to jump into the sections, and if they do Control arrow too fast, at least they will stop to this section, so they won't be too far away from where the data or the work is actually located, because they're not jumping into blank cells that are not used or never going to be used. So you sort of put like a wall to it, okay? a wall where actually the data or the work or this worksheet is all the way up to this section or up to all these columns. Okay, I think it's a very nice to do that, to hide all these columns that are gonna be used, and the same way for rows. And now if we go to the agenda right now comes, for example, how do you add more rows in case you need them? Good question. For example, here where we add columns, that's why I recommend to leave 3 columns for margin. So you go to the last one and now you press Control Spacebar and then you do Control plus sign. And see now, oh actually I don't know what happened there. Control Spacebar, Control plus sign, and you can see AD was added. Okay, say that you wanted to add 2, then do Control Spacebar, expand the selection, come with Shift arrow right, and then Control plus sign, and then you added 2 more rows, AE and AF. Okay, and the same logic is with row. Okay, same logic. You have to just go all the way to the bottom. Say maybe you want to add 5 more rows, so you do Shift Spacebar, you expand the selections to be 5 rows, and then you do Control plus sign, and then you have added, I'm just gonna do it with the mouse, you have added 4 rows below. So that's in case you need to add more margin or more columns or more rows to your dedicated area. Okay, now just to sort of close, try to avoid hiding columns in between where you have an area of work or your work area. Why? Because for example, if I sort of hide column C and do Control Spacebar and Control 0, for example, it's very hard to notice that there was a column hidden. Okay, this section right here. Let me just do this. Okay, it's kind of hard to notice that there's some columns that are hidden. So in the next tutorial, I'm gonna teach you what's the best practice for this, better than hiding columns. Okay, so that's what I'm trying to say. Try to not to hide columns. I know now you're learning the keyboard shortcut, but do watch the next one where I teach you what's a better way to hide columns in between your work area. Okay, so I'll see you for tutorial number 17. Thank you for watching.